and we see people lying dead and injured on the ground, and we cannot help them at all.
The Libyan army is notoriously poorly resourced, which may explain why it's taking them so long to retake one town only a short distance from Tripoli. Even if the opposition fighters are badly trained, the one big advantage they do have is force of numbers. The rebels, for instance, say they've taken Ras Lanouf and are on the march towards Gaddafi's hometown of Sirte. There's still plenty of resolve here, apart from anything else they captured and then ransacked the symbolic prize of Gaddafi's beachfront residence in the town, which must have been gratifying for them. But more importantly than that, Ras Lanouf has oil, lots and lots of it.
At the beginning there, you see from here up to 10 kilometers, the port, the oil seaport, that's for exporting oil. You see, Ras Lanouf, that's the biggest in Libya here.
And Brega, further east, also still seems to be out of Gaddafi's control. Two things are becoming clear. First of all is that increasingly the fighting's being concentrated around oil towns, which it's hardly surprising Gaddafi's so keen to reclaim, while his assets are being seized all over Europe. His forces are also keen to destroy arms dumps in the hands of rebels. This one went up in flames in Benghazi, although it's not clear how. More than a dozen were killed, the funerals demonstrating once again how united Benghazi is against the government in Tripoli. The other development is that it's clear the fighting's becoming harder, and all the reports from the frontline towns suggest more people being killed than in previous days. The main reason why the two sides are so deadlocked is because neither is particularly strong. But all the same, it's hardly surprising the words civil war are beginning to appear more frequently to describe what's happening in Libya. Lawrence Lee, Al Jazeera.
Now, as we just heard, rebel fighters are now moving towards the Libyan town of Sirte. That's Muammar Gaddafi's hometown and an area that will be extremely well defended. Our correspondent, Hada Abdelhamid, who's in the opposition stronghold of Benghazi, has the latest on the opposition advance.
The opposition forces are now quite close to Sirte, the hometown of Gaddafi. At the moment, they are regrouping, trying to find some sort of military structure for them to continue their advance. They do realize that hitting Sirte is going to be much more difficult than whatever they have met so far, just because it's the hometown of Gaddafi, and also because it's where most of his paramilitary elite forces are based under the direct commands of his sons. Sirte is also a much bigger city than AlJazeera, Breda or Ras Lanouf, so they do expect fiercest opposition from the pro-Gaddafi loyalists. However, they are emboldened. They do have a lot of weapons, heavy weapons. We have seen anti-aircraft guns. We have seen also other kind of rocket-propelled grenades and rocket launcher. Each time a town falls, they basically raid the military base and get more weapons. Now they do say that this is the point of no return. They're going to Sirte, and after Sirte they say they're going to head to Tripoli, and inside Tripoli they want to head directly to AlJazeera, which is a location where we believe Muammar Gaddafi and his family are at the moment.
Now, as fighting continues across the country, food supplies are becoming more scarce, and the concern is that supply lines will be cut off by more clashes. Jackie Rowland has more from AlJazeera.
A rare sight in AlJazeera, a queue outside the bakery. Buying bread has never been a problem before, but now if you want it, you have to wait for it.
Well, as you can see, the problem isn't a shortage of flour. They've got sacks and sacks of the stuff. The wheat is imported. The flour mill is about 100 kilometres to the east of here, and they're not having any problems getting deliveries of flour.
The bakery is owned and run by Egyptians. When the uprising started, half the staff ran away, so the baker is training a few local men to do the job. The problem is that the people of AlJazeera are eating bread more quickly than they can make it. Bread is cheap and filling. You can buy a big bagful for $1. These are violent and uncertain times, but at least people aren't going hungry.
The biggest problem now in AlJazeera is all these civilians running around with weapons. And the second problem comes from the west. We are afraid that the Gaddafi Air Force will bomb us.
For now, there's no shortage of food. There's a good selection of basic products in the shops and even some luxury items. But ports in Libya are out of action for now. So when the stocks in the warehouses run out, these shelves may start to look empty.
We have problems because a lot of food comes from western Libya and the roads are closed because of the fighting. Other products come from the Arab souk in Benghazi and that's closed as well. So you can find imported goods in the shops, but not local produce.
Families can still put a meal on the table, but vegetables and other fresh produce are scarce. If the fighting gets closer to AlJazeera, the supply of food will inevitably be affected. Jackie Rowland, AlJazeera in eastern Libya.
Now, the Libyan government maintains that AlJazeera is calm and under the control of Gaddafi forces. This footage was provided by the Libyan government. They say it shows Martyr Square in AlJazeera on Friday. It highlights positions the government says protesters have artillery and weapons. A foreign ministry spokesman says its forces have been told not to engage with protesters in Ras Lanuf.
We hope by tomorrow morning life will back to normal in Zawiya. Regarding the situation on the ground in the Ras Lanuf and the Brega, the army is still abiding to the instruction not to engage in severe fighting in those areas.
Nuruddin Jebnoon is a professor at the Center for Contemporary Arab Studies and School of Foreign Service at Georgetown University. He joins me now from Washington, D.C. Thanks for your time, sir. As we look at these battles to and fro, the offensive and counter-offensive, are we looking at a very prolonged battle here for Libya, effectively something that could last weeks, if not months?
So this is a possibility, but the situation on the ground, we have like the anti-Gaddafi forces are pushing toward the west, even though they haven't like a good line of supply and a good line of communications. They're determined to finish with this regime. Today, what did happen on the ground in the Zawiya, the pro-Gaddafi forces surrounded the city of Zawiya. They start using like a heavy artillery, using like armored battalions with like tanks, bombing civilians, which must be considered as crimes against humanity by using this kind of weaponry against like his own population. So it's a war of attrition, will take maybe weeks or months, but I think in the end of the day, the regime is on the verge of collapse, and I think in the end of the day, the force anti-Gaddafi, they will take over.
You know, there has been a reluctance on the part of Western nations, especially the United States, to give any overt military aid to the opposition. But would it be safe for us to assume that there is covert aid getting through?
Look, the United States has a broad range of options to implement over Libya. Libyans don't need like any military interventions from the United States, either the United States or the NATO. What the Libyan